Hello, everybody. Welcome back to episode 36 of the Digital Climax Kings. I'm the Dead On Leprechaun, joined by Digital Prophets. Say hello, brother.
Leprechaun, what's going on?
Ooh, is there some craziness going on since we brought you the court decision on the gun issue? Supreme Court came down with another biggie.
Okay, nice, nice. Real quick, I'd just like to take a moment to honor my avatar. It's a local Florida rapper named Spot 'em Got 'em. Got taken down by the boys in blue the other day. He was in a high speed pursuit on a jet ski. Just big shout out to Spot 'em Got 'em, living his best life amidst this crazy world.
So, tell me a little more about this. Is he like currently incarcerated somewhere?
Lep, I gotta be honest with you. I saw the article, clicked on it. It brought joy to my heart. Just looking at the young fella with the face looking like a 1990s public school book and a hairstyle that puts Sideshow Bob to shame. Kid's living his best life, Lep, amidst the turmoil that we talk about every day. I didn't really go into reading the article, but I'm forever remembering Spot 'em Got 'em as a guy that made me smile on this terrible, terrible day in history.
Mm.
So, what do you got with the courts? I'd go live, but I'm camped out in front of an AC unit. We're on day 87 of triple digits with no end in sight.
No, you're good, dude. And same here. We're still actually made a lot of progress with our basement remodel. So
Oh,
I'm still
nice.
camped out upstairs in the bedroom, and so hopefully, I'm thinking next week or the following week we should be able to get back into my normal podcasting zone. But yeah, no, we've got the concrete poured and we got the drains in. Ran into a little bit of an issue. I wish our buddy Company Cam was here. Shout out to Company Cam to talk to him about what's going on with our plumbing, but ran into some drain tiles next to the sewer line under where the basically the toilet and the shower are going to end up going. So had to do a little bit more work than we anticipated, but things are back on track. We got the slab down, and guy's going to be coming back tomorrow to level it out and hopefully start installing the gear next week.
Leper, you notice any relief in the price of materials these days?
Oof, dude, it was bad. So I think I told you this before we went live in the last week or two, but material costs, as you anticipated prior, went up significantly since we got that bid about just a little under a year ago, and it's everything. I would say is most things are at least 30% more, but I would say some of the things were 50% more as far as parts. Labor stayed about the same. It went up some, and I think there's some fuel surcharges for like when he hauled the concrete and picked up some of the things for the actual shower, the guts of it. But yeah, it was startling to see the price increases, because I was able to apples actually see this was our bid from a year ago. This is what it's going to be now, and it's just a few $1,000s today. So it's still worth doing, because that second bathroom is so key if we ever want to sell.
Very true, very true.
But yeah, I've been keeping an eye on the markets, just watching. Stock market had a dead cat bounce, and then some are up, but most are down still. And gas prices, everything is still no relief in sight. Like you said, that heat wave in Texas is basically the heat wave on the stock market.
Dude, I was gonna say I've got like a fantasy portfolio I set up maybe 6, 7 months ago on it's just an app on my phone.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at it right now, and my initial investment was $4,704. Left the current value of this portfolio, which includes Apple, Amazon, Facebook, Snapchat, all these big names, it's down to $870 is its current value. So I'm down a significant, I don't know what the percentage of that is, but you're saying that the price of the labor's gone up a little bit, but materials have skyrocketed. Like, you got to think of this, the middle class is getting gutted in every way, right? I mean, not getting a lot more wages, wage increases, like whatever, but losing in the markets. losing in the gas, losing in the grocery store. Like, how is this sustainable? It's not. I don't, it's just not sustainable.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to say that I wholeheartedly agree with what you said, and that you're right. I mean, there isn't going to be a middle class when all this inflation is said and done. I mean, I think we're looking at, the actual official inflation numbers are so cooked by the government as far as the way they calculate it. It doesn't factor in so many things that, like you said, everyday people have to buy. There is no choice involved in going to a grocery store or gas station. So I think you're right. I think there'll be the ultra wealthy, and I think that even they're taking a pretty big kick in the shorts, but they're going to be fine. By and large, government is doing, crazy, apocalyptic, scary things like, making sure their continuity of government is going to be in place if there is, riots. And of course, the Supreme Court decision with Roe v. Wade has got, political tensions at an all-time high. I mean, it really is the perfect storm of problems that it has me very worried about, specifically my kids. I think that there is a potential that we come out of this somehow, but I don't know what that's going to look like based on what I see and based on everything that we've talked about in prior shows. I mean, it's a really bleak outlook.
Lep, it's really hard to logically try and forecast like a how would you even say it? Like a future that makes sense with the deck of cards that we're playing with right now. Like the leadership is all just they turn on each other constantly. So it's like a constant popularity contest. And nobody makes sense because the more sense you make, the more hated you're gonna be. Look at that orange man, right? Like, come on. It's just ridiculous. If you speak truth in politics, you get voted out. So we got lunacy creating policy, and it's driving the world bananas. How do we steer this ship, Lep? Is there any way that like a majority meaning, a group of people could create like a parallel society that still runs on the roads that we've already paid for and built, uses like, the infrastructure that's here, but it's just got to be a point where it's like, okay, look it, this doesn't make sense. We are adults still, but let's actually act like it, right? Does that make sense, Lep? Are you going to throw stones at me?
No, I think you're 100% right. I think that it's going to take to some extent, a complete rethinking of, what a person's important resources are. And like you said, I don't know what that's going to look like other than, planting a garden, doing a lot more at home, really making your home environment kind of your base of operations and operating like a small little government. Everybody needs to do their part and pull their weight, that's in your household. And I don't think that in the short term, there's really anything else you can do than try to get yourself as self-sustainable as possible. Give yourself the best chance by, I hate the word hoarding, but, having fuel on hand, having access to water and, all the necessities, medications for some, there's a lot of considerations. I think this is a good time to take inventory of what you've got in your pantry and maybe hit up the dollar store, pack up on peanut butter and jelly, stuff like that, because it lasts so long when stored properly in like a basement pantry or, some sort of a cool, dry place, just starting to stack. I mean, that's gold and silver, I think, are maybe a haven for the short term, but you can't eat it. That's the problem is that.
Yeah, you know what? There's that native it's like not a it's a saying. I'm sure you heard it where it says, when all the buff gone, all the fish are gone, you can't eat your gold or you can't eat your money. I just saw it the other day. It's pretty impressionable.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. I'm lucky in that we live next to a huge lake, but if I didn't have that, I would be really concerned about, being able to get fresh meat, so we can harvest fish for a while, but, if everybody's doing that, that area is going to become too dangerous to even visit, so I don't know. There's really no good way other than to be as self-sustainable as possible.
Well, you know what's interesting? Agent X was telling me the other day about his grandparents and like the middle class back in the 40s, and how the middle class, like 50s, 60s, I'm not sure, it was back in the day. The middle class people, they didn't have the type of abundance that us, like lower class, like you'd even call us like, like the people living in the apartments class, living off of the government, they're living more lavishly than the upper middle class of like the 40s. Meaning, like back then, they only had a couple good sets of clothing to go out with, and they still were what we would consider frugal. But back then, it was living high on the hog versus the majority. So it got me thinking, like, we're about to possibly experience a normal life. We've been living in a Disneyland fantasy lab. Like, I'm 42 years old. It's all I've ever known is abundance.
For sure. Yeah, I'm 38, so I agree with you. We've kind of grown up having, largely the internet for most of our life. Abundance of knowledge right at your fingertips. You can
Have you
Google it.
ever been without, like, the possibility of getting a Big Mac? I saw a story on a guy the other day. He's eating Big Macs every day for 35 years. And I was like, holy shit, he's been eating a Big Mac every day of his life for almost as long as I've been alive.
Yeah, I mean, we are looking at that. I was trying to send you that picture before we went live that, Subway is experiencing lettuce shortages at many of its locations. And I mean, it's not my favorite place to eat. I'm not going to lie that I don't, I'm not a regular customer there or anything, but by and large, I mean, for a sandwich shop to not have lettuce is really eye-opening. And to see that, people, as far as in the lamestream news, are just not talking about the difficulties that farmers are having, trying to source fertilizer with the, obviously all the sanctions going on and in that Europe area, between Russia and Ukraine, they provided a lot of essential things that we're just not getting, lithium batteries to make electronic vehicles. I mean, the vehicle shortages are, kind of getting talked about in the news. That's starting to come around now that it's just really impossible to cover it up any longer.
What's the
But
reality that you know regarding that?
couple million cars down. I mean, there's the
Uh,
reality is we're just not going to have new vehicles. And, as people total out their vehicles, from normal car accidents that occur that can't really be prevented, that you're seeing body shops sitting on, vehicles waiting for repairs for, ridiculous amounts of time. And the insurance companies only pay for a loaner car to, a very structured period of time, you know, for however long a
Ooh,
normal
yeah,
repair.
that's right, right?
So I just see that as being a huge issue. I know that people are driving less, so that's really what's kind of kept this from boiling over more is that people are just not traveling as often, and so there's less opportunities to even get into an accident. But that's not going to be a long-term solution that we just live in a crippled economy that nobody wants to do anything, and so everything's okay because everybody stays home is not a solution. So I think by and large, it's staying independent, it's staying uh, available to do whatever it is you have to do to get there. So people that have never taken a bus in their life are probably going to have to learn how to do that. People that have never ridden a scooter are going to have to think about getting a motorcycle, or you know what I mean. Like, we're going to have to change how we live, like you said, and go back to a more frugal, um, you know person-centered life where you're just thinking about how do I get through today. You can't worry about tomorrow too much because I mean that'll literally get your head spinning, and everybody will lose their sanity. So I think it's just important for people to realize that there are still things you can do. The beans, bullets, and band-aids has always been great advice, but I think that at this point, it's going to be stacking food is key. And then, like I said, if you have the means to stack, you know 8 to 10, 5 gallon containers of gasoline. I think that would be wise, having a generator, because if these rolling blackouts really do happen from the energy shortages because of the Ukraine Russia, I think it's important to have an alternative source of power. Solar is an option. So there are things out there you can do, and there's still a little time left to get ready. But once these Q2 earnings come in, and then followed up by the shortages of fertilizer and everything else, I mean, the crops just aren't getting planted. I mean, look at what happened during the beer virus. During the lockdowns, they were dumping milk. Farms were getting, their yields were just basically getting thrown out because there was nobody buying anything during the 2 months of shutdowns.
Oh, dude, I went to almost all the way to Austin, Texas, a couple Saturday or Sundays ago.
Yeah.
Left. We drove by so many cornfields that were just toasted. They were fried. Like they were way more than knee high before July, but they were done. Like it's like the farmers gave up. And I'm talking acres after acres. I was like, this is kind of sad, but at the same time, what the heck? Like, I don't
Yeah,
know. It was eerie, Lap. I forgot
dude.
all about that.
The terrifying part about that too is that people don't realize that as the price goes up on any one item, think of how many people that were just scraping by the day before that are now basically on borrowed time until the game is over. Like they might have credit cards or family to borrow from for, short periods of time to keep limping by, but there are so many people that are basically paralyzed, and that they can't afford to drive to work. I mean, I've seen stories,
Hmm.
people that work 2 and 3 jobs that are now walking to work because they can't afford to drive their vehicle anymore because of gas prices. And
Think about this 4th of July weekend coming up, left. How many people are going to be using credit cards that have like a higher APY now? And it's just like, you can't win. There's
no,
no winning.
nope.
The
So,
casino's like so rigged at this point that even just being inside of it, you're losing money.
yep, like George Carlin said, it's a big club and you ain't in it.
It's more apparent now than ever. How can it not be, right? Like, just look at every major news outlet, read between the lines, think for yourself, look at what's going on in reality, and yeah, it's apparent.
Yeah, and tell the people you love them often,
Pretty
because
much.
you never know when it's their last day. I had my mom who was in the hospital. She just got discharged and went back to the nursing home
Good
today.
news.
But
Okay.
like I was telling you, she spent 16 hours in the emergency room because
Ouch.
they were so short staffed. They didn't have any nurses. I watched the doctor go and get a bedpan to assist her to use the bathroom because they couldn't use the bathroom because it was dirty from somebody that was in there that was ill in some way, shape, or form. And so there was biohazardous materials in the bathroom and couldn't be used. And the doctor was screaming for a nurse. And then finally, he just picked up the bedpan and helped her because he knew there was nobody coming. And that single nurse, of course, we saw her at times during my mom's, stay in the emergency room, but she was running up and down the halls of that emergency room trying to help as many people as she could. And she literally looked so upset about the situation and stressed about trying to take care of so many people, and then to know a waiting room full of other sick people are going to jump in as soon as my mom gets admitted to the hospital. Sure, that problem is solved for a little bit, but now you're back to 2 more people that need to come in. So I just don't think that we can keep counting on people to just keep taking it on the chin like they are and think that they aren't going to burn out, and then we're going to lose the few people that know what they're doing. And I think that you're going to see a lot of people needlessly perish from treatable diseases and problems because the medical field is just so gutted from the lockdowns.
I've been hearing stories about that. It's terrible what happened. All the nurses that were canned because they wouldn't take the vax.
Yeah, the poke.
The poke. It was a joke.
And everyone's still going to croak.
Ooh.
It's not funny, but I guess it's laugh or cry, and I think it's important to keep our levity with everything going on in the world. Like I was saying, tell the people you love that you love them often. Try to keep some sense of humor about things because in the end, I mean, that's all we really have is each other. Like I don't want to get too sentimental because I think that there's obviously you can go too far in either direction, but I think this is a good time for people to consider religion and to go back to those churches, synagogues, and find those support networks of actual people, not internet friends, but actual people that will want to support you and do the right thing and step up to the plate when it's time to help you.
Well, that's key when you said not internet friends, because if power was to go out right now, rolling blackouts have been warned by the government. The internet friends aren't readily available.
And food shortages, which Biden came out
Hmm.
and said, plan for them. They're coming, and we have to believe them. I mean, if they're telling you it's true, I think that should terrify you.
They're basically giving themselves a hall pass so when it happens, they can say, look, we told you.
Yep. And thing is,
We
China did the
provided
same.
no solutions, but we told you.
Yeah, we can't fix the problem, but it's going to happen, and that's just too bad. You better stock your
Vote for
pantry.
us. Don't forget, vote for
Yeah,
us.
blue, no matter who.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I said. I don't think it's all bad though. I think that again, people going back to their faith, whatever that is, and going back to family, faith, and friends, and just leaning on those people when you need them. Not becoming burdensome so that people don't want to be your friend, but striking that delicate balance of helping people when you can, but also not being afraid to ask for help if you need it.
Well, then now we're coming to a part of reality where you really gotta accept response, like welcome to life, assume responsibility, accept responsibility, whatever that might be, shape, form, whatever you're capable of, right, left? Like you got certain talents I don't got, I got talents you don't got, like when I'm not saying some type of utopian, paradise, but it could be if we were all on a level where it's like, you know what, I'm not trying to become some mega superstar, TikTok famous. Look at me. I mean, how fun could that really be, Lep? You see all these people, especially the youngsters, the 20 somethings, that all they know is how to blow up for 15 seconds of fame on some type of social media app. They got to be holding a stack of money and doing the. They all do the same poses. They all have had nice cars, nice clothes, but it just seems like a shallow version of reality to me. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
No, I think you're 100% right. I think that the reality is that you can have a million followers on TikTok and not one of those people you could count on to come help you in the middle of the night. When you need somebody, if you're depressed. I mean, the reality is that there's a lot of people that work in service-based industries here in the United States. And I think that the same is true from, our Canadian friends and, abroad over in Europe. There's a lot of people that depend on a job, as agent has said before, that's not going to exist in hotel industry, the restaurant industry, retail industries. So I think this is a good time when it's still a job searchers market as far as job hunting to find something that's in a more stable industry. I'm not a huge proponent of you need a college education, but I think that there are certain benefits to it if you want to go into healthcare. And I do think that there are certain benefits to going into legal. I mean, people are always going to need lawyers, people are always going to need funeral homes. I mean, there are things out there that you can get involved with that are virtually recession proof. Now that doesn't mean
You know
people won't.
what's interesting, Lep? Just let me interrupt real quick because you said lawyers,
Yeah.
and I've been wanting to talk about this with somebody for like the last year and a half, 2 years. I was on a big like little research mission regarding the future of law because it's becoming so complicated and AI technology is starting to integrate into the law system, kind of like in a way that Bitcoin is starting to interrupt financial systems. I wouldn't say Bitcoin, but blockchain, like that technology is starting to affect financial systems, like how they work. So there's tons of books about this, how like AI is impacting the future of law in ways that we can't fathom yet, but it's going to be completely different because of the complexity of it, and how like with these new programs it just makes more sense because you're dealing with like actual hard facts and not a shady human. You know what I mean?
Oh, 100%. And I think you're
So,
already seeing it in some, especially in like contract law. But I think with the wave of bankruptcies that are predicted in all the markets,
ooh,
that
yeah,
you could go back to school, become a bankruptcy lawyer, and I think that you're
you're
going to have
right,
no shortage
huh?
of work. Yeah.
Dude, what's the timetable on that? What's the turnaround on that, Lep?
I think it really depends. You're going to need some sort of a
Cheapest and
bachelor's.
fastest, baby. 4
Uh,
years.
yeah, probably 4 years, I would say. If you already have your
If
generals
you
out of the
shop
way.
enough, yeah.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say you don't need to go to some private school that's ridiculously expensive. You can go to some sort of community college, get those generals done, go to a, like a state sponsored, school like University of Minnesota or University of Wisconsin in the Midwest here.
Bulldogs.
Yep. Yeah, nah, I'm not a huge Bulldogs fan, but I do think that there's benefits to, like I said, education for certain things. And so I don't want to discount it. And I know there's a lot of well-educated people that have fantastic jobs that are going to disappear when things really hit the fan coming up. And so I just think this is a good time to do that soul searching and go for a recession, resistant. I don't think there is such a thing as recession proof or depression proof, but I think there are definitely industries, like we said, funeral homes, things like that, that, you could probably go to trade school and get, a certificate. People are always going to need insurance to some extent. I mean, people are not always going to need a travel agent. They're not always going to need restaurants. Now, will some restaurants survive? Of course. But, I think by and large, we're already seeing restaurant apocalypse happen, in real time with, like, at least locally here, I'm seeing a lot of businesses, especially small businesses, are picking one day a week where they close for a day. So like our pizza place that we really enjoy, is called Sammy's Pizza, and there's 15 locations throughout
Ooh,
the state.
Sammy's. Yep.
Yeah, dude,
I
it's
know
so good.
Sammy's.
Love me some Sammys, but they're closed on Mondays now, and then a different location is closed on Tuesdays. And so you're just seeing this sort of, work less, but try to be more proactive when you're there and make hay. So they're trying to sling more pies in less time, but you're seeing McDonald's, Burger King, Taco Bell, all these different, like chain restaurants are still alive, but they're living off their drive through. They're not having walk-in traffic anymore.
It's a good point. Very good point.
And the bar scene has already been gutted to some extent. Like, so you're seeing the hospitality side of this economy, just really the floor is falling out. And then farmers are taking a hit with obviously all the increases. I just read an article today that, it doesn't make sense to raise a cow or a pig or any of these livestock anymore because it costs more to feed them than it does to actually sell the animal.
Wow. I just heard that this morning. It was like a 9-minute clip from this female farmer in like North Dakota or South Dakota, and she was just preaching it, and she said that.
Yeah. Dude, that's startling. I mean, and the thing
Yeah.
is that, they tried to, do the, crop rotate, where they farmers that were planting corn are trying to plant soy, but, if they can't get the seeds or the fertilizer, then it doesn't matter, and then everything basically lives on the food economy. So if that is non-existent or dying, I mean, everything else is going to collapse if you have no foundation.
It's hard to fathom, man. It's hard to fathom being that, like I said at the beginning of the show, all I've known is abundance.
Right? Same. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that are not gonna take this well,
Mm-hmm.
and then the first stages have already been endured, and people are already run down and, sort of just getting by on fumes, and, 401k disappeared, their crypto wallet is empty, like, there's so many things
Mm-hmm.
that have already just gutted people that I just don't know how much more they can handle, in these mass killing events where, we've seen recently. I think is just a more evidence that people are lonely, they're depressed, they're trying to get that 15 minutes of fame that they never got on their TikTok, and they're going berserk because they didn't have family there to fall back on. What do you see with all these people that are committing this atrocious things? Is they're fatherless children, boys usually, and they're fatherless. Like, I'm not trying to say that that's the root of all evil, but it's definitely something to consider when you're seeing it day after day, and they all fall into that same profile.
Yep, and I don't see it ending anytime soon. Lep. Hate to end the show on a bad note. Do you got any good stuff, real quick?
Yeah, I mean, the good stuff is that it's summer. This is your time to get projects done. If you've been thinking to yourself, I don't have anything prepped, where do I start? Like, this is still a buyer's market now with everything that's happening. Use the dollar store, use, 2 or 3 stores. If you, go up to, like, we have a mall area in my town, and if you go up there and you shop around, you can still get good deals on certain things, and you can get yourself in a better position to weather whatever happens. And if nothing happens and things get better, well, then you still have a cushion. You still have the ability to help others. So I think this is a time to just do a little self reflection and just be the day that you start doing something. Start that garden, start that pantry, do that thing that
You
you've been.
know what, Lep? Not to be the bearer of bad news, but out here, it is so dry that they are telling us that are not on wells to not, like, we can't use the water right now to water the gardens. So everything's drying up. It is tragic.
Yeah, in which case then you follow the other advice. That means it's time to hit the Dollar General, buy a bunch of peanut butter and jelly.
Hmm.
It's a way that if somebody comes knocking on your door, you can help them, or you can sit and get a lot of meals. There's a lot of calories in it. Is it the best thing to eat? No, but this is a
Will
good time
keep
to.
you alive? Yes.
Yeah, stock up on some vitamins, stock up on, I've heard there's shortages, coming with ibuprofen and over the counter pain medication like that. So I think it's a good time to just stock up while you still can, rather than looking at it that, I can't stop the tsunami that's coming, but there's something you can do to be in a better place for tomorrow. And I think that's the only white pill I've got for this moment, is that, help is on the way, but help is you.
Help is you. Here's a life hack you just reminded me of. When I was a kid growing up, grew up on beans and rice, just standard like white rice and pinto beans or whatever, right? I couldn't stand them as a kid until I learned that if you mix them together and add a substantial amount of ketchup, it tastes delicious, Lep. It's something we could even work on patenting. I think it has that type of taste bud power.
Yeah, and if you
And
season
it's
stuff to
cheap.
your liking, like
Mm-hmm.
you said, you can make something that normally wouldn't sound appealing taste pretty darn good. So find what you like. I mean, I'm a mustard guy and I love to pepper things a lot. I think
Ooh, yes.
it's so good. So I think there are ways to make bland food taste good. You just have to be willing to
We
do a
could
little
do show
experimenting,
after show on this one, baby.
right? You got to get those beautiful
Ah,
Latinas
making
on
me
here.
happy.
Yeah, showing
Yes,
us how to
now
do some of that bomb diggity cooking.
diggity diggity. Oh, 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 I tell you.
Well, great show, brother. I think we
All
should get
right.
together one more
Speaking
time.
of, sounds
Uh,
like it's time for some food.
yeah, right. Well, we should get together one more time and do one of these before the 4th or right after.
All right. Freestyle Friday, possibly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's going to be an actual 84 degrees out here for a high. I'm excited. We haven't seen the mid 80s and we lost count last month.
Well, hoping that you guys get some much needed rain and that heat wave comes to an end so that something can be salvaged of your
We got to,
growing
yeah, we
season.
got to keep the cycle cycling.
Yep, that's right. Remember, help is on the way, and it's
All right, left. Da, 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 da.
peace.